1,000 words ain't enough to define the body of, yeah. Caught her look and she wants it back. She's firing up that body up, yeah. You think that I want you, but not bad. You're one in a million, but it's not for me. I'm not into girls with a plastic trace. Don't take it too personally, yeah. My fault, my bad. The words out, but you weren't ready for it. Show off, appearance of I got it, but I got.
Howdy.
Hello?
We're gonna give it a go and see what we can get. All right, today is, I need a camera, that might help. Today is Lazy Lego Monday, and as you can see, I'm being very, very lazy. But we are working on the potions class, and so hopefully everything will work pretty quickly. There we go. Let's get the zoom going. That should do the trick. All right. Our camera hub. Got a different camera than I'd like, but that's alrighty. Guess it'll do what it does. Let's turn that off. Can I get Lego? Does this work? No. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll just forget about it. Okay, so we are back with the potion set, and let's pull the parts over. Wherever I put them. Just kidding. Over here. We need lights. Maybe.
Oh goodness, there goes the channel. ITT Tom just raided with 23 pairs of eyes.
Welcome on in, ITT
Hello.
Tom and crew.
Hello.
Me? Organized? Never. Not a thing.
Hello.
All right, we need instructions. They pointing at the right thing? Yes. Hello. Sort of. See them? Good morning, Raiders. Welcome on in. We are just working on the potions class, and we were about to start bag 2, I believe. Let me double check that. Incorrect. Instructions, be on the right screen, please. There we go. All right, so where are we? I think we finished at bag 1 the last time, and I will just pause to say hello to everybody. So, good morning, Fantastic Sherlock Fox. Good morning, Mama Bear. Welcome on in, Raiders. Always a pleasure. We have a lot of conversation that I rolled back too far. All right, let's roll back this other one so I know where to stop. We have
Hello.
Fantastic Sherlock Fox and Mama Bear were chatting back and forth because I was disorganized. That's the way life goes. And drop raid in. Good morning, Jen. Tom was searching the World Wide Web and found this awesome channel to raid. Wow, that's quite the raid message. Good morning, Mike Burton. Always good to see you guys. And Yellow, Tom Raid. Wolfen's like, Tom Raid. Good morning to Wolfen and Yellow as well. And good morning, Tom. If you have to raid and run, that's perfectly fine. But if not, I would love to know what you were working on today. Good morning, Minx Nevada. Always good to see you too. I think we made it. I had to refresh to be a real viewer. It's like he's a real boy. All right. So we got bag 1. It didn't save where we left off, so I just got to scroll through, make sure we got all that. Yeah, makes sense. Here, bag 2. Bag 2, please. Thank you. Right, so let's get bag 2 out of the box. 2. There we go. 2. Now we're into Monday. Excuse me. I will be upfront right here and now that I'm starting the I'm starting the week off with a solid dose of Camp Crud. Normally, Camp Crud is triggered by campfire smoke, but this time instead of campfire smoke, because we were not allowed them, this one is prairie dust and possibly atomized cow dung. Lovely, lovely, lovely. It's just a simple mob farm, Tom says, to support the rocket needs you have now because you started to fly around on DC perks. Ah, yeah. My plans are changing all the time. Sometimes I think it's going to be just a creeper farm. Other times I think it's going to be a full-on basic mob farm. But I haven't started yet because I'm still derailed by the mineshaft I was creeping around in last week. All right. Geek Out has shifted. We're looking at the aughts television programs to HBO original shows. Original, huh? I don't think Game of Thrones necessarily counts as original, but maybe. All right. So I had been attempting to have a lower down face cam so you guys don't see as much of the top of my head. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. 2 reasons. One, I am absolutely dreadful with cable management. So the camera I've got that I usually use for face cam, you see now, is, one, it's short. Give me a second here. This way. Okay. One is that camera, I've got the cables tucked up in the back in such a way that I actually can't get them past the arm of the monitor stand. So there's that. Two is that the second one I was going to use off my phone down below. And unfortunately, that one, although it wants to preview beautifully, it does not want to show in OBS. And I'm not sure why. Because it's actually quite literally the layer that should be sitting right on top of Facecam You See Now. But if I turn Facecam You See Now off, that you shouldn't be seeing the other one. And part 3, if I'm muted, which I could very well be, then it would be that my Stream Deck buttons have gone south again. You know, as they do. Okay, where is... As I popped open the Stream Deck app, just to make sure things aren't busted, one of my Stream Deck elements crashes. So, we'll try this again. In any case, we are working on Potions class. Looks like we've got a new gal to put together. Got all the parts except her skirt thing. There we go. This one, I don't know if it has a name. I'll have to check the box. If it does have a name, it's probably like Pansy Parkinson or something. We've got a Slytherin. It's either in a good mood or a grumpy mood. Being a Slytherin, they're usually grumpy when they have to deal with Gryffindors, so make them grumpy. Here we are. There's your grumpy Slytherin for the morning. And the box says that is... It's Pansy Parkinson for sure. So this is our only Slytherin student in this model. We have, ones we picked up last week, we have wonderful Hermione Granger at the front, and Seamus Finnegan with dusty face, because he's, as usual, blown himself up. So, Pansy to join that crew. Sopranos, yes, that's a good answer, Mike. I like that one. Now this one has one of the collectible mixed up the collectible tiles for this year, so I'm going to set that aside and we'll look at that later because I do not want to spoil that one. All right. Four by, okay, great. I just started launching into the steps and I was like, did I even get the right one? So, I would like to know what other people were up to for the weekend. I have plenty of stories of how our team did, or groups did, for scouting. But I'm curious to know what other people were up to for the weekend. Fantastic Show Boxes. I don't even know if we have HBO up here, though I know they have plenty of original content. Well, yeah. We, our house never paid for HBO. I think we could, but as a separate channel, but I don't think we ever did. I will be perfectly blunt. Some of the stuff that people watch popularly on some of the major channels like Sci-Fi or HBO or whatever, I will admit that we watched in an illegal format just because sometimes it just was not worth the cost of the show. I mean, when it gets to be more than 50 cents or $1 an episode in the way that we pay get charged up here for these channels, then I am not particularly enthused. I mean, I know there's more on the channel than just what everybody's all excited about, but the thing is that we only watch, one show. So, for example, even with some of our streaming services, we're on again, off again with Netflix, just because there's some things that we'll watch, like Stranger Things, for example. I remember what the other one was that Fantastic Shockbox was watching that made it worthwhile. But we'll, buy a month of it or two or whatever, watch the series as it comes out, and then get rid of it again. And some stuff isn't even worth that. That won't be staying. Ugh. Right. This feels weird. That won't be staying. At some point, I will pull that part off. Will go in my box. Because I do not keep the spiders. I will say creativity on Lego's point. I'll show you this up close. Aside from it being a spider. But on the bottom, this bit that looks like an eyeball, that is actually where the injection mold point is. So I say kudos for Lego finding good creativity points of being able to hide things. Doesn't make the spider any less uncomfortable, but yeah. Huh. Thank you, Saribot. That's awesome. Saribot just blocked one, but the name was hilarious. Unofficial pharmacist. I like that. That's cool. Well, it's interesting, I guess. Cool probably isn't quite the right word, because they were maybe making a drug reference, but it still was amusing. We actually had a fun situation along those lines this weekend. It was totally above board, but at our adventurer level group, so when they're 14 to 18, for the most part, they're generally allowed to deal with things like headache medication themselves, as in, like, we can't necessarily give it to them, but if the youth bring the headache medication with them, they can administer their own. It's not a huge deal. It's basic stuff. I mean, there's other things too, like at younger levels, even something as simple as an inhaler needs to be handed over. But at higher levels, of course, they can deal with that themselves. In any case, we had a joke story going around this weekend. Like, it was a real deal, but everybody thought it was funny because one of our youth came back from the Great Escape and it's like, I avoided a tag by dealing drugs, is what they said. It's like, no. You really what? And they said, well, okay, yeah, I gave the person some headache medication out of my stash. I'm like, I really hope it was an older, like one of the event youth. Because the person telling the story was the scout. And like, yes, it was. And they even said what group they were from and so on and so forth. So we checked in later just to make sure the kid's headache had dissipated and so on. But it was just mildly amusing how ours had come back saying, yeah, they didn't tag me because I gave them drugs. And it's like, period out of context. We know what this person was talking about. It's a bit of a running gag within their family, who is another leader. And it's just, so it is amusing how they said that, but they just told the story the same way. And you could tell that there's like shuffling in the background from other groups that are neighboring. And when the story came up, the shuffling just stopped. And we're like, I think you might want to rephrase that. But it was cute nonetheless. So if Sopranos is one, I don't even know. I guess. Yeah. I guess things like Game of Thrones came out of HBO's, but I'm not sure if it would be called original per se. What am I looking for? I am looking for... Oh, Cheese Slope, a single one. And then Square. One of the things that I don't like about going camping is even after, clipped fingernails or whatever, I find that I get dried out at these camps. So I'd end up with, like, their cuticles receding, and then they just crack and split, and what a mess. So apologies for the state of the hands at the moment. I mean, they're not the best in the best of times. But that's what we had. Still curious what other people got up to for the weekend. And Oswinbot wanted to know from Tom, or someone in his chat, what sort of rockets they were making. Now, I understand that we're talking flying rockets, and I also understand that the bot just doesn't have that context. But I'm actually curious to know, are you making just like short duration rockets, or are you going to make some of the longer ones for travel? That's one of the things I'm thinking I should do. Is I'd bought an entire shulker box of rockets, and for travel purposes, and I'm thinking I should probably, when I get myself a farm, take the trouble to make some of the longer duration ones for travel, just because some of the things I was doing needed a longer distance. Geek Out has swapped, thank you. We're into Pixar animation. Name 2 named vehicles. Pixar animation, so this is not so bad. 2 named vehicles. I'm thinking they're leaning towards the Cars franchise, or the Cars series. Lightning McQueen is an easy one. You can still use the other. I'm okay with that in one franchise because a lot of the other ones didn't have named stuff. Toy Story or Finding Nemo, yes, but they don't have vehicles in them. Okay, Toy Story would. Let's see. What's his name? RC, I think. That's what they call the little remote-controlled car in Toy Story. They call him RC. So maybe that would qualify, I guess. But if we're talking just cars, then my favorites actually are the Hudson Hornet and Lizzie, the Tin Lizzie vehicle. I like that one. Just because she's so incredibly clueless that she makes me smile. Mater and Sally. Ooh, good choices. Fillmore's fun too, and that's the one that's like the hippie bus. Who I think he's always making gasoline combinations, which of course everybody thinks are to be avoided. Some of my favorite stories from the Cars franchise actually are the shorts that they had with Mater, where he's telling absolutely ridiculous tales and Lightning doesn't believe him. But it was the time travel shorts. Yep, there was a Planes spin-off. There was actually 2 Planes spin-offs, which I thought was kind of fun. I actually enjoyed both of them. The first one being where Dusty the crop duster wants to be a racer, and he makes it, of course. That's the way the movies go. And then the second Plane spin-off involves firefighting. Like he ends up being a forest fire firefighter. And I like that very, very much. I mean, he gets to use his crop dusting abilities for that one. And I think I honestly think I prefer the second one over the first one when it comes to the planes. Well, so Dusty was the plane. Sarge was the ex-military vehicle, who I think was Dusty's coach for speed in the racing section. But I can't remember any of the ones in the firefighting one, unfortunately. Skipper and Blaze. Ooh. There you go. I used to know them. My son, somewhere in a box, has some of the Dusty die-cast airplanes that they put out as a piece of that. I think they went through, Matchbox for that one. So they had some Matchbox metal airplanes, and the kids had some of those. All right. And so we got those ones pretty heavily hit, so I will roll that. We got Back to the Aughts again. 2 characters on Arrested Development. Now that's one I heard a lot about and never actually watched. Or never remembered watching. I think about... It wasn't 2000, it was... 2002, I think? Maybe it was closer to 2005 or 6 is when I cut cable, so I'm not sure what I did and didn't see. I was never really one to be into a lot of those shows people were talking about on TV, partly because the group I hung with, for them, things like Dexter were on the menu, and that was just not my cup of tea, as you guys can probably imagine. Doesn't mean it's a horrible show, it just wasn't my thing. And then they had a lot of ones that might as well have been soap operas in the way that they talked about them, and I was just like, no, not my thing. Couldn't get into it with the parents at the playground either. They'd talk about whatever the latest thing was, and sometimes it was like Grey's Anatomy or some other thing, and I don't know, just couldn't get into it. I'm more of a documentaries kind of person, so that's part of why a lot of YouTube works for me, is because there's a good amount of that's documentary related, or they'll do documentary style discussions and breakdowns of other content. Jen's got a 5-year-old. He knows all the words to Cars 1. Wow. Awesome. He gets double points in my books, Jen. That's amazing. So yeah, Hudson is my absolute favorite in that Cars 1 movie. Just because he's so underrated by a lot of the cars, but he used to be a racer and he knows a lot of stuff about racing that Lightning just doesn't have a grip on. Yeah. Well, that's it. We did, Fox is right, we did up our kids' walls in Cars decals. And they were, at the time, they were from the Cars, was it World Tour, I think it was, which I think was Cars 3, I'm not entirely sure, might have been 2. And even though he's more or less grown out of that, and his interest is very much more Star Wars and such, we've offered to take the decals down, and he says no. He wants them. Definitely wants them. So, okay, whatever. You know, that's fine. If you want to keep them right up into your teens, go for it. No problem. So we've got the classic ones on the wall, but there's also some of the international cars, like the Japanese ones and stuff. And there's still, like, logos from the World... What was it called? World something or other, but it was the World Racing Group on his door to look like globes and things. My daughter's room, actually, we had a similar thing with her. She used to be very much into Disney and Disney princesses. Like, that actually was her thing. She kind of liked it. And then as she's grown up a bit more, I've asked her if she wants to get rid of them, and she still says no so far. But it could just be that she just doesn't want to change her walls. That's fine. They took a lot of effort to put up in the first place. So she's got the Princess Castle on one side, and there's, I think, who do they have? Jasmine and Belle and Aurora and... Oh, phooey. There's a bunch, anyway. Yes, the World Grand Prix. That's exactly it. Thanks. See? Your kid does know all of that. And the World Grand Prix stuff is actually some of my favorite Mater shorts, because he tells a story in one of the time travel ones where he supposedly got modified into a dropped racing truck, and supposedly was racing somebody in the Grand Prix all around Tokyo. Not so much, but it was fun to watch him. And then, so of course he's back in Radiator Springs at the end. He's going, modified! And he drops down. You can see his old rusty vehicle body scraping on the ground and creating all kinds of sparks. Geometer! Yes, indeed. I mean, there was another cheesy one where they had, Mater was claiming he was part of the Blue Angels. Of course, they have planes versions of Blue Angels. And he was claiming he got to be part of that. It's like, nice try. They don't put a truck in the Blue Angels. And he goes, oh, really? And then he claimed that he got lightning up there. And it's like, no. And then the Blue Angels sweep by and pick up Mater and take him off. It's like, okay. There's always something at the end of those shorts that makes you kind of go, maybe it could have been supposedly true. See? Jen knows all of these ones. It's been a while. We used to have Disney XD up here in Canada. So it was the youth channel. We had Disney Junior when the kids were little. And then it was Disney XD when they were a bit older. So I still quite enjoy... what's his name? He comes to me from time to time, anyways. But there was a Space Kid sort of show. And he had himself a robot ostrich that could do a bazillion different things. I'll remember it partway through unless Jen beats me to it. Okay, so we need to figure out where these curves go. Yes, you're right, it did. You did have Skipper in there. Sorry, Sarge is the green Jeep in Radiator Springs. Yeah, Skipper was the airplane. Oh, we have stickers. Whoa. Stickers. Okay, which ones? Number 5. Okay. Times 2. Oh, they're just... Okay. So, they look like they could say stuff, but they didn't bother. So, we just grab a couple of number 5s. In this case, there's such a weird curve that the piece is flat that I can probably just deal with the fingers, but I still want to hold it. So I'm going to need a brick separator. Sorry, my brain supplied Fixer Stixer. It's an internal name in the family for them. I'm not quite sure where it came from. My kids started calling these Fixer Stixers ages and ages ago. Come on, there we go. Nope, hold. You, hold. Just don't want to hang on to it. Okay, maybe not. There we go. I'm shaking today, so these will probably go on crooked. I think it's just a result of A, being excited to be back, and B, I'm warm, but my system is still figuring out that it's warm. It doesn't quite understand that. We were in Celsius, so science numbers. We were, when we got up on Saturday morning, it feels like temperature was 1 degree below zero. Now, I've discovered, unfortunately, that although I took a sleeping bag that used to be rated -15, it's definitely a summer bag now, and that was not a great situation. I did have another overbag, a fleece thing, but it helped a fair bit, but it wasn't perfect. It could use a modification based on how I use it. So I may talk to my mother-in-law who made it and see if she's willing to help with the modification. But also, I like it enough that my kids who toss and turn a lot in their sleep while we camp, I may ask for a one-off favor for her to make a couple more. Because it's something she used to make a lot of as a business and ceased doing so many years ago before I met Fantastic Sherlock Fox. But I think if I asked a really huge favor and was willing to pay for all the materials, we could probably ask her to make just a couple more. Because these, basically it's a fleece over bags, like Vivisac sort of thing. But my kids and I like to use our campfire blanket. So just, yeah, but literally it's a big blanket that you wear around the campfire. In Scouts in Canada and sometimes the US, people put patches on them, like campfire blanket badges. And but we like to use them as blankets as well when we're camping. And unfortunately, the bad news being, I'm still saving that one. The bad news being that when you toss and turn in your sleep, of course you roll off from underneath your campfire blanket. Or, as my daughter found out, sometimes you get yourself all wrapped up in the blanket in circles, so that you end up more or less, like swaddling, and it can be really difficult to get untangled, which is fine. I mean, that's great. They all have sleeping bag liners that basically do the same thing, but it doesn't help a whole lot. So I was thinking the fleece sacks are great because they don't, they go on the outside and you can pull it right up to your chin like a blanket. It's just where mine is right now. It needs a modification because when I do that, the zipper is up the front because the military bags that she used to make them for had the zipper right up the front. And so it made sense. But of course, modern sleeping bags for civilians are zippers on the side, which means that zipper up the front, when you pull it up to your chin, it's like right up in your chin. So I just would like a protector layer. What have we got? Snape is coming! Bag 3! Woohoo! Jen's now got modify stuck in her head. Actually, I could probably use that as a sound clip for Lego Mondays, because when I make an error, I have to modify to be able to get things back where they should be. Oh, it's the name of a car. So they were looking for car names. But my favorite, some of my other favorites from cars was Guido and Luigi, basically the guys that were dealing with the mechanic shop So the little guy was just ridiculously fast. And he doesn't talk a whole lot. So, of course, at the end of the movie, spoiler, if you haven't seen it now, you probably won't. But this little guy comes in and Lightning's been racing around the track and he needs his tires changed. And the other teams have like 4 or 5 of these little forklift guys. This one has 1. And they're laughing at him going, like, you can do this job. This is ridiculous. Ha ha ha. And he's the fastest in the entire place with his pit stop changes. So he does the job and Lightning leaves and the other guys are just like their mouths are hanging open and he just goes, pit stop. I love it when there's so many little like comeuppance kinds of things that happen in the movies once Lightning gets his attitude sorted out. So we have Snape, his typical shiny, overly shiny hair. It's on purpose. And he's got a quizzical face or a grouchy face. I think maybe I'll go with the grouchy one because Seamus has made a mess since he blew up his potion. I do find it interesting he's got charred dust on his face rather than splatters, but that's the way it always was in the movies as well. So we've got good old Professor Snape. Starting to note that I really should scan my characters, like the minifigs I've got, and see which ones I've picked up separate from sets. Because there's a lot of them starting to show up a little bit in the used shops. I'm going, oh, do I have that version? I don't know. And so some of them were easier to identify, but now I'm running out of easily identifiable ones. So I should definitely see what I've got. One of the apps I use on my phone and tablet to track things, if I put in the sets, then of course not only can I find out what parts I use, I can also sort it and find out what not subparts. Yeah, I guess like what parts are in that set, and then on top of that, I can even find out which specific minifigures are in that set. Now that I've completed the old Diagon Alley set, I quite like it, but I'm still working on what I want to use some of the shops for. And it occurred to me actually that the modern ones, the modern releases of the Diagon Alley sets, they are what's the word? Very square, as you see a lot of city styles, and I mean that makes sense for the way the movies came out and Universal and so on. But prior to that, they were very square, I guess. Not square, sorry. Prior to that, they were very whimsical roofs, and so the early set I've got is very whimsical roofing. Now, while I'm still intending to try and do an extension to to Nocturne Alley for Flourish of Blotts to incorporate the modern Blue Network piece, I still have this old Ollivanders to figure out what to do with. And I think what I'm actually going to do, because of the whimsical roofing and stuff, rather than turning it into another Diagon Alley shop, I mean, there are a lot of choices available for that, but what I think I'll probably do is switch it and maybe do it as an extra shop or pub or something in Hogsmeade, because that's a sort of town village kind of thing, and there's more whimsical shapes used in those ones, and that will probably fit a little bit better. But we'll see. I mean, it's a lot of my own creation stuff that I'm just nervous about doing on camera. Actually, I'm worried about doing a lot of things on camera. I'm just not comfortable yet being super creative from zero on camera. So we'll see what happens in Minecraft. I'm still on the fence about what the next project will be, but I've got a little bit of default stuff to do first, such as mob farms and cleaning out mine shafts and whatnot. If I never get to some of the ideas I had, well, that's just the way it is. I don't think it'll take me a year to get there, but sometimes I overshoot in my thoughts and get excited about things, and the reality is the supplies and stuff aren't there. Supplies and infrastructure. Eco has rolled, thank you. Into television again. Mad Men. Okay, does anybody watch Mad Men? Because that's another one I didn't see. Fantastic Trout Fox knew it because of the architecture style when we were doing one of our quizzes. I geek out again. Perfect. Friend of Prince. Oh, we did have this one. So some of these appear to be rotating, but that's just because we go through a lot of them in streams. When I first brought the game out, it was all new, and now it's getting very much reused. I don't even have all of the Disney cards in there. We've talked about this on occasion. So I'll just show you real quick. So for example, this is the Disney Geek Out set that we've got. This portion down here, I think, actually I'm not sure which one's which. Yeah, I think this portion down here is the one I've input in the system already. This is the stuff I have not yet. And I'm kind of on the fence because we seem to get an awful lot of Disney related questions anyways. But on the other hand, maybe that will spread it out a little bit more. We'll see. I don't know. It's one of those I got to get around to it items. And no, I'm not going to make bad round to it jokes today. We've been there. We've done that. So for those of you that were not hearing all the chaos that I had this weekend, last week, because I was describing what the Great Escape is. Long story made short, it's a game where the youth got released at about 7 o'clock in the evening. Up here, sundown was about 7:30, so of course you still had twilight after that. And I missed one of these little layers. And then went out, and the idea was they got a map that had 4 checkpoints on it. 5 physical checkpoints on it, but a large space. And they got to go and, after dark, go and find these checkpoints. At about 7:30, the teenage adventurers were sent out after them. And they were to basically chase them down and tag them. So there were exceptions in terms of, like, if a group is within, I think it was 10 meters of a barbed wire fence on the map, then the other youth were not to attempt to tag because that's like unsafe. We did end up with one kid smacking into the barbed wire fence, but it actually turned out to be not a bad injury this year, which is good because we've had bad ones before. And they specifically said no running. Of course, that never happens, but by saying it, at least there's not a whole lot of long chases. And we ended up with far fewer groups getting separated from their leadership. So the scouts had to go out with 2 leaders with them, and but they were allowed to hide. So we had leaders that doing things like there are leaders that are designed volunteering to walk the field, so they don't have youth crews with them. And they were jokingly labeled the League of Nations. Then of course there's the leaders with the groups. So what can happen is the groups will drop to the ground or scatter or whatever, where the youth will hide, and the leadership will just be walking along, going in pairs like they are the League of Nations teams. And then when the adventurers talk to them, they're just chilling and chatting and whatever, and not letting on that their youth were right there. So that was kind of interesting. And sometimes the youth would, the teenagers, like adventurers, would actually even give clues or hints of just the heavy seen station hink yet. Oh no, haven't been around there yet. I'll get there later in the evening, just haven't bothered. It's like, okay, well, it's just down there over the hill, and we were about 200 meters away or something. And they didn't even realize they've given clues to the hiding youth. But also, some of the adventurers decided they weren't going to actually play the game for tags, and a few of them decided they were going to be self-appointed safety teams and hang out by the fences specifically. And they would actually loudly announce as scout groups got close, "I am not going to tag you. I know this is a not allowed zone for tagging. I'm just here to help you guys get through the fence safely." And that was kind of cool, as those guys got called out in a positive way at the end, with thank yous and stuff, because they helped keep people safe, which was very good because it frustrated the rest of their adventurer company. They were not, yeah, that's true. Sven and Kristoff would count as friends to the princess. so they got called out because this was actually a competition. So for every station our scout youth found successfully, the checkpoints, then they had a certain number of points. And for every time they got tagged by Venturer, they would lose points. And for every tag the Venturers got, they would gain points. And it was all averaged out over the members of your scout patrol or your Venturer company, how many points they got. And there was actually like awards, like not a monetary thing, but little extra badges, and your group had to hold up the trophy and that sort of jazz. So it's actually quite. Some groups, some years we end up with quite the stiff competition in terms of like all the nasty stereotypes of hockey parents come to life, and that is not a great thing. But this year, it really did seem like a lot of adventurers were sort of saying, nope, forget this. We are not going to be super dangerous competition. We would rather play the game safely and have fun than be in heavy competition. But we still saw fun things, like some kids came in various different versions of ghillie suits, and I thought that was pretty cool. Some of them came back because they were too hot, which I thought was mildly amusing. Last year it was pouring rain, so there were a lot of youth that didn't enjoy it last year, and so we had smaller turnout from the adventurers. There was still a good-sized crowd. And when I say good-sized crowd, our youth groups were able to be our scout groups were able to be in up to 8 scouts with 2 leaders. But because our group actually would have had 9, we had to go into 2 different groups. So with the 9, we ended up with a 4 and a 5, and then I think when they went out, I can't remember if it was the 5 that became a 4 or the 4 that became a 3. I don't remember which happened, because we had one youth that unfortunately had a medical issue and had to stay behind. Not a bad one, just some stomach cramps and stuff. And they went out on our groups. There's actually 6 stations out there. There's 5 that are on your map, and there's 1 that's hidden. In many years, the hidden one actually moves because it is one of the League of Nations teams, because they're in pairs, right? And the idea is you basically talk to them or run into them or whatever, not crash, but talk to them, and then they will identify that fact that they are the station. But because they're on the move, it makes it easier so that other youth can't just give away their position. And this one, actually, I guess this year they stayed still, because last year, I suppose there were some issues with them moving. I don't know what it was. This year they stayed still, but our group gave up before they found the hidden station. It just was one of those just not on the map pieces. So both of our groups got all 5 stations. One of them got tagged a good bit, but my son actually of that group got less tags than the others. For some reason, he was able to just drop down and be quiet, and even his own group didn't particularly know where he went to. He delayed responses to their secret word that said they were safe to get back together after they had scattered. Not enough to annoy anybody in a big way, but he took a little longer to drop down. Okay, I'm looking for a 2x1 gray without this little lip thing on it, and I'm not seeing one. I'm definitely not seeing one. I don't think I'm missing a piece. I'm pretty sure I may have just misused it elsewhere. Rather than fussing about it, what I think I'm going to do is just dig in my other boxes and real quick and see if I've got a spare bit. One, two, that box. Here. See if I've got one of those. It's a little easier just to grab on. Piece, move on. Easily seeing one. I'm sure I've got one, but I have a big bag of stuff to sort out yet because I still have not in that bin. Okay, so pull back. Not common that I've done that. Roll back. So while I was it sounded robotic. Okay, what we can do... Just going to mute for a sec. You're going to get a horrible volume, or horrible mic, and then we'll get back to it. I'm just going to reboot the one that's running my current mic. Reboot the software. So during that reboot, we'll just finish up the story. This is probably going to sound quite tinny. I'm okay with that, just because we're rebooting the software for the other mic input. Anywho's it? So, yeah, both our groups did that, but the other patrol we had, they actually managed to avoid all tags, and at one point they may even have accidentally had our first patrol act as buffer for them. So, such that the other patrol got tagged and then the adventurers moved off before finding the second patrol. We're not entirely sure. Okay, I think this other mic is back. Yeah, we'll have to see if that's any better. It was also probably weird because I was digging in things and it was trying to not get those bits of sound on the microphone. The filters can be a little high intensity at times. Okay, so we're looking for that 2x1 gray. Where did I use a bunch of those? Did I overdo it? Yeah, I suspect it was me digging in the bin. Okay, wait a minute. I'm going the wrong direction. Of course, I'm not going to find the part I quote-unquote used if I'm going forward instead of backwards. One there. Oh, I used two. Aha, my bad. So the spot that they're showing in here, the little square around it, is actually showing the piece going on. I thought it was an extra one. That's where I missed it. I am streaming, therefore my nose is itchy. You know, we have that one. I think it's actually probably a stray hair with some fans and stuff in here. Not perfectly natural, but it sounds more you. I'm never perfectly natural. Basically, like we've been talking about a little bit on some of the other Discords, every time you touch the audio, it becomes a mess. Never right. Yes, our teams were quite proud of themselves. They got the marked ones on the map, and they didn't find the hidden one, but they didn't really care. Which actually, apparently, of the teams, a lot of the patrols, the scout patrols, had actually given up at the same point. Meaning, like, they'd gotten their 5 stations, and they said, that's enough. We'll give it a shot to get the hidden one, but we're not going to be super fussy about it. And so of the ones that quit at the same stage, ours came in 4th. So that's actually a good showing. We ended up with no major game injuries. A couple leaders are a little bit sore. One of them just, a lot of step downs and things, and their knees are starting to get a little bit ancient and non-cooperative, so they just got sore from that. But they had taken hiking poles, which helped a lot. And then another one, oddly enough, twisted his ankle. Thankfully, was able to more or less walk it off the next morning, so it wasn't a full-on twist, more of a slight sprain. But he did that actually late at night after the event, or after the major part of the event was over, because the fields we played in are they're farm fields. So we had a plethora, I guess is probably my favorite word here, but an awful lot of gopher holes of varying depths. One of our tall adventurer youth, actually, he's like 6'6", I think, something like that, 6'5", 6'6". And he stepped into this gopher hole during the daytime up to his knee. So yeah, we had stuff like that going on. A ton of little, rocks have been dug out type of trip spots. And then we actually had enough gopher holes of other varieties that as the gophers are headed towards hibernation, we were advised that that's where all of our gray water was going. You just dump your gray water down the gopher hole. Okay, sure. That's fine. It's, I guess, nutrition for the field. We still had to strain out stuff for compost, so it wasn't a noodles or something down the hole. But, so we had that, a couple of minor injuries in that direction, but nothing from the youth either, which was great. A couple of our group leadership and some of the adventurers normally are part of our medical teams. So there's a vocational set of adventurers, teenagers, and up, adventurers and rovers. So there'd be the 14 to 18 set, and then the 18 to 26 set. But the vocational ones, meaning like these are the ones that at some point in their lives would probably like to become paramedics or nurses or doctors or whatever. So these are the ones that start out as the first aid teams, and they get proper training. And it's nice because that way you don't have to hire the third-party teams. But anyways, we didn't end up having to send anybody into town. We did last year, but we didn't this year, which was good. And our leadership that had to be volunteering for that, were saying, yeah, basically a lot of scrapes and cuts and, that sort of thing. They had one minor, it was a minor anaphylactic attack because the person turned out to be allergic to hay, but not yard grass, but actually hay, and they didn't know it. So they were out there and they went to hide, and I guess they broke off a piece of grass and accidentally inhaled it, and it caused them to have some issues. But people were able to solve that fairly well, so it was all good. And then we had a few different little things. As we said, barbed wire was a problem. We had one youth that, I was telling the story last night, where I happen to know his mother as another leader, but he was wearing a ghillie suit, a nice cream-colored ghillie suit, and he said, "Oh, this is too hot." So he came back in like 10 minutes after they left. He was one of the chase teams, and he came back in 10 minutes later and he took off the headpiece section. Okay, cool. Then he came back 10 minutes after that saying, "This is still too hot." He took off the sort of like jacket section. Okay, fine. Then like 10 minutes after that, he shows up and he's like, "Yep, I'm gonna hang out with you for a while." "Why not? Are you not playing the game? You quit?" He goes, "No, I'm a patient now." And then the med team's like, "Yeah, whatever, you're just being silly and want to hang out with us. Get back in the game." And he's like, "No, seriously, I am." And they checked my back, and when they looked at it, he had like a 3.5-inch long bleeding scrape near his spine from where he tried to crawl underneath the barbed wire and was unsuccessful. So yeah, normally we don't have any wildlife to deal with, but apparently there was an elk on the loose last night, on the weekend, and we also had, what's the other one we had? We also had cattle that were loose in the field. They weren't, normally those would be penned, but this time they were running around loose, which was fine. Most of the youth didn't have an issue with it, but some were nervous. At one point, some of our adventurers got surrounded by cattle, and they were a little worried about that because if they decided to do a run towards one of the scout groups to tag them, they were a little bit worried that the cattle might feel threatened, and they didn't know what was going to happen if that was the case. One group got minorly chased by a cow because they were dumb enough to decide that they were going to try and tip a cow, which is just a myth. You can't actually tip a cow without it being annoyed at you, and generally it takes a lot of effort to do so because they're just going to sit down. I don't know, if somebody tried to knock me over, I'd probably sit down too. We had some silly people. What else we got? We've got a clip that needs a light. Alright. That was what we were up to on the weekend. I got to hold down the fort, so I will admit I'm kind of spoiled by being able to tell you guys some of the stories, because the actual activity out in the field stories really belong to my kids. And even when I was adding some of the safety notice filler that the scouters sort of back at base got to hear, that people in the field did not, they still were highly annoyed with me for interrupting your story to add the context about why certain things were the way they were. So yeah, I have to learn to just shut up when they're telling stories. But I was excited, so on me, I guess. Set this one in. This is flat enough, I can probably just tip her back. That blocks way too much. Okay, well, stuck. I quite liked it. Next year, it'll probably be my turn in the field. I was just really worried this year that the way the day had been going up to that point, and the way it went up to game time last year as well, really overwhelmed me a little bit in a way that made me edgy and cranky, or easily irritable, I guess. And so I felt that it would be better for me not to be there in the field this year so that I didn't ruin the youth's experience. The other part was that I'm not the fastest leader, so I didn't realize how the leadership part went when it came to, everybody taking off and running and stuff. Some groups have leaders that run, some groups do not. And it turns out ours is one that does not, but even the leaders who were out in the field who normally are sweepers with our group hikes because we're slow, for whatever reasons, mine's because of dance injuries, but anyway. Point being that even those ones, they actually said, yeah, we got out ahead of the youth quite a lot this time because they were dropping down to hide. So I can do that thing in the field next year. And this other leader who tweaked her knee and stuff like that, she has been out in the field. Last 2 years, she held down the fort with me, or 1 year with me, and then 1 year before. But she's been out in the field about 3 or 4 times. And one of the other leaders I could swap off with is incredibly gung-ho because he's just an overgrown kid. He's a parent, with 3 kids in the program, but his personal attitude is he's very much just an overgrown kid. So getting him to not be in the field would be a little bit difficult. The third, we have 2 other leaders. One is simultaneously adventurers because we allow youth to become youth leaders. And so this adventurer actually had to make the choice: were they going to play as adventurer, or were they going to sign up to be a scout leader with the patrol? And they chose to be scout leader with the patrol and wanted to be out in the field. So we said, sure, fine, that's cool. Which worked to that team's advantage a little bit. That was the one that got tagged a lot, but they got tagged less, partly because when they dropped this youth adventure leader, mistaken by the other youth as a player, as in participating. And so it was a little easier for them to dissuade the other youth to just take off. It's like, yeah, I got this corner covered. Don't worry, if they come through, we'll get them all tagged, and I'll let you know. And they just kept going. This is a cute little, I should pull it up. This is a cute little writing desk they've got. I like that with the potions book. You can see the cauldron and the little pen. It's just neat how it snaps on. Geek Out has changed. We're in the Pop Culture Party set. Category Literature. Name 4 titles in which an alternate universe or multiverse appears. Now, it technically says literature, but I will allow comic books if you can tell me that they've been graphic novels. 1, 2, 3. This one's a little weird that we've got an extra. So I'm not entirely sure about that, but it doesn't seem like I've really missed anything. Yeah, don't think I missed anything. Okay, well, it's just spare. Nice. The bag 4. So, bag 4 has... Whatever character, interesting. Oh, great. Unique model bits this time. We've got a couple of potion messes, I suppose. What happens when we get there? I like the little desk. I'll be curious to see what happens with some of these other things. And I'm wondering if those potion mess blobs will go into the cauldrons in front of Hermione and Seamus. So we've talked on and on and on at length about The Great Escape. I think we've talked about it as well in terms of sort of the route of the game. So we don't have one of these in other parts of Canada, and I'm very aware the US does not do the same. But it's based on the idea of Great Escape. In World War II, there was a bunch of POWs that decided they were just not going to let themselves remain being POWs, and they decided to leave and make a grand escape. And there's been movies about it and stuff. I'm trying to remember who was in some of them. Stephen Queen might have been in one of them. So anyhow, that's the notion behind what we were doing, which is part of why it was after dark and so forth. The Girl Guides don't do anything quite the same, but in Canada, or well, in my city, I guess, they do or have done in the past an event that they call Night Trek. So it's a similar distance by the time you're done, but they go in a circle, and their teams are let out after dark at like 9 or 9:30, so you're very solidly sundown before they go. There's no barbed wire or anything like that, like it's just a hiking route, but they do a loop so that stations are about 1 kilometer apart. So, oh geez, I know it's like 1.6 kilometers to a mile, so a little bit, or wrong way, it's a little bit smaller in that respect, but they're about that far apart, and then they get sent out in, I think it's 15-minute increments in opposite directions, so that they cross over in the center section, which is often our hot chocolate station, and that one, the stations along the way, or the checkpoints, I guess, along the way are just like activities. So it'll be maybe doing a spider web type of activity. So you'll have, rope done up as a big fake spider web, and then youth have to try and find a hole in the spider web that they can get through. They're not climbing through themselves. Like they'll actually have themselves, if it's low enough, they can go through. But if the hole is higher up, then they actually have to have other members of their patrol lift them up through the hole. So it's that sort of thing. We'll have knot tying skills. They'll have sometimes they'll have an escape room type challenge. Other times they'll have like a compass challenge. So I mean, there's a bunch of those sorts of things. The Scouts do those types of activities during the daytime in the Saturday leading up to the actual escape event, so the Great Escape event. So they both get access to that type of activity. There we go. Blah blah blah. Inside is bricks, outside is shelving. So that's their format, and their whole route is about 10 to 12 kilometers long, but they don't have leadership go with them. These are 11 to 13, I think, year old youth. I think, yeah, doing my math on that one. Girls in that case, but they have they're allowed to use flashlights if and only if the flashlights or headlamps offer a red mode, so that they don't disturb wildlife or break themselves out of night vision, as far as humans ever get it, And there are still leaders walking the trail and so forth, but the girls are pretty much on their own for all that navigation stuff. And that's kind of fun. I've done that one as a youth about, 3 times, I think. I mean, that makes sense, 11 to 13, but I think I did it 4 times. But it's kind of, it's fun. It's very much like the Night Trek, like the Great Escape adventure as far as the youth finding the stations, but there's no running away from others, and it can be done in a wooded space, whereas the Great Escape one is often done in a fairly large, low tree situation. Stickers aren't quite centered, but they're square enough, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to move the minifig just because they're in the way of the writing. Okay, so we've got Eye of the World. What is that, Mike? I'm actually kind of curious. I mean, I get the multiverse thing, but I haven't heard of that one. Often with an alternate universe and multiverse concept, it's almost always either science fiction or fantasy. Science fiction is most common. So in Canada, we have Thanksgiving coming up. We have our Canadian Thanksgiving. And just a lot of it has to do with, like, the difference in time has to do with the Canadian growing seasons being different than a lot of the American ones. That's, for lack of a better term, that's generally what it boils down to. But how that affects things is that this week, things will be normal on the stream, as far as normal ever gets. And beyond that, next Monday, I don't know if I shall stream or not. We'll see. I mean, it's Lego, so I might. We're having our family get together the night before, so it's not like I have a whole lot to do. But the kids will be off school for Monday, so we'll see whether or not we go ahead and stream. Swan times. Oh, I don't read the instructions properly. I keep making mistakes. Alternate universes, maybe Adventures, Endgame, and Stargate. Did they do novelizations of those? That's my question. Did it again. Glenn, pay attention. Oh, my thing later this week that I'll have to get my brain around is I've been asked to do apple pies. And I can. That's not an issue. I like doing apple pies. But I want to... I don't often do scratch crust, and I've done scratch crust recently enough that I have some frozen in the freezer, and I don't know if I can resurrect that and get it rolled out. I'll need to try that a little earlier in the week. But I do want to get those done in plenty of time for our family dinner on the Sunday. We've been also asked if we will do cranberry sauce and like the stuffing or dressing. So we're going to take care of that. The kids are usually pretty good at helping with the dressing. That's Fantastic Sherlock Fox's forte on that one. I used to be very, very particular about it, and now we've got sort of a blend of what we like to have in there because, of course, the different families have their own favorite ways of doing things. We've discovered over the years there are certain things that, unfortunately, are in Fantastic Sherlock Fox's family's preference that we can't really put in them if we want put into the stuffing if we want our kids to eat it. Because his family was much into mushrooms. Mine did some, but not as much. Alternately, so though they did like raisins, and our kids won't eat raisins in with the bread, so quite odd that things are going a little robotic. I do apologize for that. Wish I knew why. Don't have... I'm gonna pop my stream. That will help. Okay. I just wanted to check my other browser just to make sure I didn't have other other Twitch channels running in the background. Sometimes when I go away for a weekend and I've got things or go away from the computer and I've got things that I was working on, I have a tendency to leave the other Slack channels running in lurk mode, which is great most of the time, but sometimes my computer just does not like other things like that going on in the background and seems to complain about encoding when that's the case. I mean, we know that this stream this whole setup needs to be overhauled. Poodle Pirate made a very good point with regards to Poodle Pirate. Sorry, she probably would too, but Maribel Jade made a good point recently about I just had that piece about basically backing everything up and then starting from scratch. Okay, I had, where did I put it? Up under my nose. I'm looking for a hinge piece. I had a hinge piece, didn't I? Did I misuse it? There it is. See, it's on its side. I lost it. Okay, so looking at this one. Two. It's under here. It goes on here. Okay. So that's one possibility. Is I could just do a backup so that we have everything working in some format and then rebuild from scratch. The theory being that in the last few iterations of OBS, open broadcast system or something, that there's been enough little updates internally in terms of what it can do directly, that sometimes having a lot of the external plugins and stuff can give you basically a bunch of hangover junk that just causes issues over time. There was a time that I could quite literally use my mic directly in as a mono mic and not have to run it through another piece of software and have the same filters on it that I do through the software. But for some reason, it does not like that anymore. I don't know why. That's why we're running it through some NVIDIA broadcast software as a stream into OBS. And then the other one is still there, but it's a backup, which usually sounds tinny and robotic. So that said, yeah, I should really do an overhaul, but I also want to look at other things with it as well. So it's a sit down and do, which may mean at some point that I take a week off and just do that because I don't trust the stream to be in good shape. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. One of those good intentions pieces. Does this look like the... I think this looks like the picture, so I'm going to roll. Alright. I still have not figured out yet how to get my iPad in here nicely. I would like to. The reason being is that I would like to be able to use the lovely little 3D rotator format, although it would probably confuse my iPad rather royally, and I currently have the iPad doing something else. Oh, okay. Things being reported in the mod view of my iPad that are confusing me a little bit because they're not showing up anywhere else on my screen, so I'm just going to pretend that didn't exist. So we have to do 3 of these arches for more of the stickers. Currently on, let's see. So Geek Out currently says Pop Culture Party Literature 4 titles in which an alternate universe multiverse appears. I think 4 is a little bit excessive. We've actually also had more than 5 minutes, so I'm going to just roll that one. Now we have 2 celebrities that have made cameo appearances on Big Bang Theory. So Big Bang Theory was the rather nerdy one that helped coin the phrase Bazinga and put it into popular culture usage. I quite like my Big Bang Theory related t-shirt we picked up at the Science Center that has elements from the periodic table spelling out Bazinga. I think that's just kind of funny. As do many other people, of course, but quite like that one. I mean, some of the people from Big Bang Theory have become even bigger celebrities themselves than they used to be because of that show. I am horrible with names, so being able to say who has become an even bigger celebrity is a little bit beyond my ken at the moment. But the guy who played Sheldon is definitely what I was thinking of there. And As far as celebrities that have done a cameo, of course, we have had Will Wheaton was notably on Big Bang Theory. Made a big deal out of it for his Star Trek appearances. But there's one. I'm looking for one other one. They probably had a Star Wars one because honestly, the Star Trek versus Star Wars sort of cultural rivalry can be a little bit excessive at times, but it's one of those things where you can't have one without the other. And that's another one of those jingles that you may or may not catch. Speaking of which, jingles that people don't catch. We've been talking about a gentleman by the name of Tyler Bucket recently on stream, who does YouTube content focused on being an average, everyday American who is learning things about Canada and just reacting to things that are very Canadian. And last night's episode, or the one that we watched last night, I guess it's like 2 or 3 days old, is from a Reddit post, a Reddit thread called Ask a Canadian. It's not Reddit thread, Reddit section. Anyways, the point being, yesterday's theme was slogans, often from commercials, that people recognize in Canada that aren't recognized elsewhere. And some people understand, and some people outside Canada don't yet understand. And I mean, we even have Canadians that don't understand them if they're expats living elsewhere. But one of the ones most common in these types of threads that comes up a lot, and I think the Americans may be aware of it by now for the most part, but in Canada, one of our favorites is referring to the house hippo. And it looks like one of the nature documentary type things, talking about miniature pygmy hippos, I think miniature hippos anyways, that live in your house like mice, and they feed on crumbs, and they nest, and so on and so forth. And they make it sound like it's fairly realistic, but the point is actually a public service announcement for veracity in advertising, and it's also been used as a point for veracity in children's programming. So that's one that often comes up. It's very Canadian. There was at one point it would the house hippo thing was, you'd see a tagline on the end about concerned children's advertisers, and then later on it was taken up by one of our telecom companies, basically saying that channels on their cable network that they offered would have to be blatant about the fact that they're fictional if that is the case, just so that they don't confuse people. And so TELUS took that up as a thing. What else do we have? Another one that we had that's fairly Canadian is an advert from, or a public service announcement from the Carrie Fisher and James Earl Jones. Exactly, yes, I do remember that. 2 characters, sci-fi, who can manipulate their size. Well, I mean, comic book characters work in this world, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that would work. Yes, I would say yes. So, for example, I will cover off Ant-Man. That's probably one. I'm going to bet Mystique can, from the X-Men series. What else do we have? In Canada, where was I going with that one? We had one from another public service announcement. Actually, we had a few that had come up. One was from our War Amputees organization, but literally called War Amps. And it's a charity organization that helps get prosthetics and stuff for kids. Either they've been born that way or they have had some sort of accident. And this one was a PSA with a robot. He goes swinging through a rather dangerous factory situation, looking like gaming or like parkour kind of stuff. And then towards the end has a massive saw blade saw its arm off, and then just reattaches its arm and says, I could put my arm back on. you can't. Play safe. So it was a total play safe campaign. There used to be an extended version where they would show it's near a train track, and then the robot bit, and at the end they had the same bunch of kids standing at the end of the ad and just standing there with their prosthetics on and say play safe, and they had a farm version of it showing spinning bladed corkscrew thing from an auger and so on and so forth. So these are like some danger situations, and so that was one of them that's very Canadian. Another one that you guys might be somewhat familiar with is in Canada we have a chocolate bar called a Coffee Crisp. It's supposed to be a coffee flavored chocolate bar, and the Coffee Crisp had a whole series of ads in the 80s, some in the 90s, where it would have a bunch of people saying, how do you like your coffee? Well, I like my coffee crisp. And it confuses people initially, because if you don't know what they're talking about, you wouldn't necessarily realize they're referring to a chocolate bar. Coffee flavored chocolate bar. So that was another one of those ones. In Canada, our beer company called Molson, like Molson Brewery, who makes a beer called Canadian, so it's Molson Canadian. I think it used to actually be called Molson Canadian, but most of the time now you see the paperwork and it's Molson Brewing Company or something. But they used to have a campaign that actually, that's where the I Am Canadian thing came from, that people still spoof at the Olympics. And it has a maple leaf sort of motif, and they would have I Am Canadian written all over everything, and there was a whole long song, and there was a spoof with William Shatner in it, and yeah, that kind of stuff. So that's one that a lot of people don't get. Wow. So was it actually like a caffeinated tobacco, or was it like some other type of suspiciously edible product that had caffeine in it? I'd be kind of curious, actually, to see stuff like that. It's interesting that we talk about some of these imported products from other places, like the U.S. imports them from Canada and vice versa. But then a lot of them have jingles and stuff with it. I would be curious to at some point find out whether or not there is a television or internet advert for Copaco candies that, like, it would clearly be not in English because those aren't from North America. But I would be curious to know if there's an ad for that, and then what the direct translation would be of the spiel in there, and if they have some sort of, I guess, catchphrase. Because I guess jingle isn't the word. They don't sing it, really. We had some silly ones pop up in this video last night as well. In Canada, there's a mattress company that a lot of people still know the jingle to. And so it was talking about why buy a mattress anywhere else. And unfortunately, the gentleman watching it, looking at this Reddit list, would pull up the YouTube on things, but unfortunately he only caught a compilation of a portion of the adverts, not anything about the actual advert itself, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Grinds coffee pouches, many flavors. That'd be kind of interesting. I could see using something like that for myself going camping, because one of the things I caught when I was being at a shop recently for some outdoor gear, just replacing a pouch or whatever it was, but I was really quite tempted by a sale on one of the pour-over filters. So it was a nice little collapsible coffee filter, not just a coffee filter holder, but like it actually had the filter built in. The thing is, though, that was just such a mess to clean that I probably would still take filters that would fit it. But it was like a 1 mug pour over size, and I was something like those Grinds coffee pouches kind of concept would either be a good replacement, or would probably kind of be a neat one to take with low trash to be able to make a cup of coffee in the morning. I will admit, I missed out a little bit on my caffeinated stuff this weekend. Medication I've got right now, I can take can have my coffee with, which I haven't actually been liberally drinking this morning, but I can have coffee with it. Whereas one of the other ones I was on for a while, it was a very solid no to caffeinated things. And the difference, or one of the differences, is that the other medication I was on for a while kicks in a little faster. So in the morning, it definitely doesn't necessarily require you to have a whole lot of food in your stomach or liquid going on for the ADHD medication to kick in. And this one that I'm on now is quite the opposite. It deals with stomach absorption, so if I don't eat anything, then it takes longer to kick in, and even at that, it's like 1.5 to 2 hours. Which way do I want to do this? Upside down. So I'm looking at this going, what? There's a sticker here, I guess. Straight? Curved surface. I get it straight. The answer is no, but we'll be fine. And inside... Oh, okay, so we just put... 3. So a slight distraction. My phone is just buzzing for some reason or other. So whatever it is may have called or tried twice in 3 minutes. So that goes on top of these. I guess I'm making more of these little cup things with ingredients for potions. All right. Different. Many, many flavors. Many flavors of the coffee thing. That'd be kind of cool. While I don't do a whole lot of backpacking yet with the Scouts, we will be at some point. And so the youth are encouraged to have all their proper equipment and stuff. But it's also handy as a leader to have them ahead of that because you never know what you're going to be up to or doing with the youth in advance. Meaning, like as in when the youth are doing the cooking for themselves in the morning, there's often a lot of supervision involved, just because things happen. For example, one of our youth this last time decided, for no fathomable reason, they were going to use the cookie tray style griddle pan and decide to do scrambled eggs on it. Ah, okay. That would explain my phone going buzz. Would photos be food or general? Photos of, well, you're asking which Discord channel to put it in? In that case, go ahead and throw it anywhere. I actually have the ability to move it if I figure that it belongs elsewhere. We do have a pictures channel as well, if you wish, so that works as well. But you're welcome to put it wherever. Like, if it's pictures of food, feel free to throw it in food. But if it's pictures of, like, random other things, then, you know, it goes elsewhere. So, we mentioned that we all come back with the camp crud. So my daughter's got the camp crud, and actually I think she probably had a bit of a cough before she went as well. I'm not quite sure what triggered that part. She seemed pretty good over the weekend. But I think she's got more of the camp crud cough than the rest of us, and it sounds like most likely the school is just going, yeah, no. No, thank you. They're only asking for 3 pieces in here, but they're giving me spares of all of them, so I'm just going to put the 4th one in because there's no point in me sorting that out elsewhere. Unless I was maybe putting it in the student's hands, which we can sort that later. Hey Les, how you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, that's the camp crud for you. We don't always have it. It's not much fun. That's the other reason that I may or may not stream next week. It's not the camp crud, but that when my kids are home, it can be more disruptive, just to make sure that they, are doing the thing they're supposed to be doing, and so forth. Now, this sticker's not centered, but what I chose to do is semi-center the flower part, which in the length of the sticker isn't actually centered. Throw these in, 2, 3. In this case, a 4th doesn't fit. I've got our ingredient station. Then I'm curious what the clip on the bottom is for, but I guess we'll find out as we clip it in. Here we go. Alright, so the ingredient station goes in here, and it's actually quite solid, which is nice, but it is removable. I do like that a lot of these pieces are generally removable, like the little writing station, and this can be popped off if need be, and there's stuff over there. Because then I can make a more 3D diagram if I want, but I'm getting the impression that this will, that this can close up quite nicely for being able to be part of the school. Put this in first, that would do it. So this season's modular style that they're doing with the parts of the castle does involve a lot of different pieces that you can pull out and diorama yourself, but they will all stack interestingly. So I've got a second of these secret panels, and I'm just going to wait till we are done before I put those on. So we've got the explodey blobs, one of these in each of the pots. It doesn't snap in, it sits in the top. Not sure I really like that, but there's no pin inside anyways. It's a little wibbly. Is that any better? Not really. It'll do. Sorry about it's busy today. There's a lot of people who've got nothing better to do. Or their accounts have been compromised. It's possible as well. There we go. So I have just a few spare bits, which suggests we're nearly done. Yeah. So everything does close up nicely. I beat them to it. So that does close up nicely. Get a good view inside. How many pages does it take to instruct how to close things? Come on, man. That's it. Alright, so, given that, then we will put up our mystery panels inside on the walls. And we'll show you what they are. The first one appears to be the runic script. Nice. So we've got one wizard there. Put that on this wall. Second one is a guy reading a book. Kind of disappointed and depressed, so I'm not quite sure. So those are that's this season's mystery panels, I suppose. Oh, this was too high. I think, yeah, too high. Down, center, low. Oh. You. See panel. Too high then, I'll just leave it too high. That's it low. Got it. Can't seem to get things to go the way I want. There we are. Finally. Alright, so we've got the potions classroom. Yay! So, I actually usually go for another hour and 15 minutes or so, so let's see what's next on the... Ooh, snapped off the supplies counter. There we go. So let's see what's next on the docket. These ones up. And I would just put Snape and Pansy inside the room before we go so that they don't get lost. But Pansy will stare at Seamus and be annoyed. Snape up, I don't know, in here? Somewhere? You guys fit inside? Really? You can stand at the table. There we go. That'll work. Ah! Falling over. Glenn, you can do better than this. Go. Down, maybe? Desk back. Mark them badly. So that everybody fits. Oh, I see what I'm doing. Okay. It's actually the kid's arms that's causing a problem here. I guess I'm going to turn them. That one's not going to work. Let's see. Can you start maybe? Seamus blew stuff up. Oh, bit better. Okay. So that is the potions classroom. Let's see what we've got next and see if we've got time to get going on it. Boom. Give me a split sec. I shall be right back. It's a great time for everybody to stretch, refill their drinks and stuff, and join us in a minute. Alrighty, we are back. Zoom got busted, but that's okay. Okay, next up, we have ourselves the Buckbeak character. I should probably rename this channel. Lego Monday. Oops. I might help if I actually do that. And then we can get right on into this one. Got the instructions and everything. We are ready to go. Alright, so this is a larger model than we've had in the past. So, I've got one from a combination with Hagrid. And then to go with that, we also had a Buckbeak in the Brickheads series. This is definitely a standalone. And I quite liked this one compared to a lot of the other standalone statue models that people have had. Various different other characters, like the Dobby one looks terrible. Frankly, a lot of the statue types look terrible. Even the more modern, non-Harry Potter stuff, I really am on the fence about a lot of them, but do not like most of them. For example, there's the booklet. For example, the Wednesday series of Lego is actually kind of ugly. So, yeah. I do not recommend. We've got 6, 3, 4, there's 1, 7, 5, and 2. Okay, so we've got 7 beds. We'll get ourselves about an hour today, and then we'll see what happens for that. Unlikely we're going to go longer than that, but I mean, it is a Monday with no other conflicts for me, so we can always roll if we need to. There's our booklet. We've got ourselves, they say, pages, steps. 150, I guess. They show you what you can do with it at the end. So about 150 pages of steps, which is, 255 steps. So let's just get a roll and see how far we can get into this puppy. Come on, just get right on into it. I like this one. Like which one? Oh, this one. And food. Huh, okay, sure. Your place. So, 3.5 hours for 7 bags. Could be, which would probably be 2 weeks. Because I don't have to do everything all at once. Yeah, like, we've talked about this before, but the thing I like about Lazy Lego Mondays is, like, when I come back from camp and my brain is semi-fried, I don't necessarily need to think a whole ton about what am I going to do tomorrow. I mean, I do know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Oh. Brick separator. We know what we do with these. Orange. There we go. It's orange! Yeah. I've seen a design actually where somebody managed to stack them in a way that sort of spun around, use them as a sun. So maybe that might be something useful down the road. Alright, so we are starting with this great big one. As you said before, there's no real point in sorting, for the most part. I mean, we've seen in the last set I probably should have sorted for some of them, but just getting some of the like bits out of the way to make things easier to see is probably a smart move. So that's reasonable. Not perfect, but it's reasonable. She says that she sorts more. I'm not going to put them in trays. I'll definitely skip that part. That's kind of dumb. Alright, that's good. So, oh, I had that. It's like, why did I put those 2 pieces away? Because I need to use them. Ship them to Cirque. No, it's okay. It's okay. I can find stuff to do with them. I was actually hearing the other day about in our Fine ITT Tom's stream that there was a little bit of DJ song skippage going on. Not everybody has the same taste in songs, but it was mildly amusing because I asked Fantastic Sherlock Fox, so in addition to being a DJ, like having DJ privileges, do you also have timeout privileges? Can you time out the people who skip your songs? Because I could, but then I'd probably lose my DJ privileges. I said, well, depends on what you're putting in there as to whether or not I'd skip it. Some of the stuff he suggests, I'm kind of glad I'm not there for. I would like to be in Tom streams more, but I am really, really, really not a morning person. Really not a morning person. So, it doesn't work all that well, but some of the stuff Fox says, I got away with putting this thing in there. And it's like, really? You got people with that? Why? Just why? And says, some of them enjoyed it, and some of them thought it was ridiculous. It's like, yeah, well, that says a lot. You said no. Well, during the outage, I could kind of see both sides of that. On the one hand, I could see why you would want to, because it's something that doesn't take electricity to do. Oops, what am I doing? Yeah, I jumped ahead and I shouldn't have. It doesn't take electricity to play with Lego. On the other hand, if at times you don't have 100% of the lighting you normally would have, then it's also a far bigger risk than usual in terms of how much Lego you might get on the floor, and we talk about, was it pain scales in terms of 1 to Lego? So, yeah, 1 to stepping on a Lego. But I have a funny feeling that there's an awful lot of just no when it comes to you and Lego in the first place. I'm not quite sure I personally understand why. But that said, we have zones in our house that Lego is okay, and zones where it highly frustrates me. And some of those zones shift seasonally, meaning that I don't like having Lego on our main floor as our sort of family living room kind of spot. I kind of wish it wouldn't be there. For the most part, I mean, we have, that's where we built our joint project together when we did, our family did the crafting, or the Minecraft crafting table. So it had its place. I mean, people build it there. I don't have a problem with that, just it needs to move afterwards. It does not. We also open up our advent calendars down there, and eventually that stuff moves. But at least even then, it's still got a zone where it's sort of allowed. We need to dump it out. So I don't mind sometimes, but there's other spots where the Lego just creeps its way in and bits and pieces fall off, or it doesn't move for months. And I just get kind of annoyed, which is kind of funny because I'm a bit of a messy person, but I have zones where I'm messy. So the master bedroom is a mess, unfortunately, poor Fox. And my craft office TV, what do you call it, computer room, etc., this is a mess. It tends to be a dumping zone of storage for scouting things as well. That's part of why it's a mess. I have a couple of these vines. So if there's places where Lego is okay, we still have a quote-unquote playroom for the kids. It's not necessarily a playroom as such. I mean, they still have imagination games and things, but it's our bonus room over the garage. And so there's a lot of Lego there, but every once in a while it has to be cleaned up. And I jokingly call it to vacuum state, as in, if we go and vacuum, we won't hear a whole lot of crunching and whatnot as it sucks up your Lego. And then inevitably, it'll suck up something that they want. Like, then maybe they'll be doing a pirate theme and they didn't clean up enough and it sucked up some of their gold doubloons and then they want them later. It's like, well, do you want to go spelunking through the dust bag? So there's, times where things need to be cleaned up a little bit. But Lego it's just one of those things that seems to pervade our house. There's little pieces, like we have certain ledges under, on the stairs and near picture spaces and stuff like that, that were supposed to be, or we originally had been using them for things that need to go to a different floor. So for example, if you go shopping and you get something that needs to go up to the bathroom, like you've bought a jar of medication or something like that, then it can go on one of these ledge spaces. Because then as people pass, you're supposed to grab whatever it is and take it up with you. Well, over time, many little Lego creations have just gotten to these ledges and stayed there. Totally stayed there. Yeah, exactly. So, There is one, my son's playing Astroneer as a game. So he was making Astroneer backpacks and stuff out of Lego. Cool. I'm okay with that. Except that it stayed on the end of the stair banister for, like, on the post for I don't know how long. And I've knocked it off about 4 or 5 times, and bits have fallen off and things like that because I've knocked it and stuff. And I said, could you please move it? Because you get so annoyed when I knock things down and a bit falls and rolls under the armchair. And yet there are a lot of mornings, as you guys are well aware, quite a large number of mornings, where I come tearing down the stairs to grab my coffee and my snack bar and head off down to the basement to start my stream. And when I go around the corner, I'm going to take things out if you leave them on the railing like that. And they stayed there anyway. So eventually I just gave up because I get riled really easily. Like it's part of the, from what I'm understanding, it could be part of the ADHD. I'm not sure, but I get really big emotions about stuff that shouldn't be a big deal. And so sometimes it's better for me to try and just give up and assume that they're just going to, deal with the problem as it arises. Welcome back, Fantastic Sherlock Fox. Good to see you. Hopefully she's not coughing up a storm. I have a suspicion it really is just Camp Crud, but that the school has a line. And the line I understand is also more strenuous, or more, they're more touchy about things ever since COVID. There's an awful lot of, what we used to call just a little sniffle, a generic head cold that is quite literally a generic head cold, and the school still will send them home. It's not always, but sniffing isn't as bad, but if you're doing any of the coughing stuff, yeah, they're on that like a dirty shirt, which I can't really blame them. Nobody wants to get sick. Oh, what is that? Oh, I see what we're doing. Okay. That's an underripe pumpkin. Okay. Wait a minute. So Buckbeak was tied up near the pumpkin patch at Hagrid's hut for a long time, so it's probably referencing his pumpkin patch. So I can sort of see where you're coming from. Like, if you need a place to dump out, one of the tricks I read, we haven't had to use, but I could totally see why it would work, is even grabbing used, one of the little bed sheets designed for a baby crib. Those work really well because you can, it's a fitted sheet, right? Corners and stuff. But if you do it either inside out or with the normal face side down, oops, that one's sideways. If you do it that way, then you've got yourself a very large tray to dump your Lego into. You can set it on top of a table or whatever. And you've got yourself a very large tray to dump it into, sort and whatnot. And then when you are finished, even for the day, you just grab the 4 corners and it just, pick them all up like a big sack, and there's your Lego off the floor. It's great. Off the surface. It's not spread all over the place. Yeah, it's the same thing, right? But it just gives you a little bit more space to work than some of the drawstring bags do. And sometimes you find those things easy to get hold of, used in charity shops and stuff. And while I don't normally go to charity shops, there's times I find them kind of handy. Like, we don't need them in a financial way, but I find them kind of handy because sometimes you'll find things there that someone's donated, and you go, okay, in your head, it's kind of like, well, 2 things happen. One, people who may need this are less likely to be buying this particular item. Like, for example, if I go and I find, an absolutely amazing knitting set, I don't know how many of them have time in their lives to be doing a ton of knitting, so I don't have a problem with that. But also, when I buy it, the money goes to the company, but then there's also a slice that goes to charity services, so that's handy. But the other part of it too is some of them, the shop has a policy of everything going to charity. I don't know what's what in terms of which companies do what. in different parts of the world, but that's my logic to it. I need base on the second one. But yeah, that's why I do stuff like that, I find. It's also another great place for when you don't need all the packaging and you really don't need all the accessories and stuff, then you'll find that. Though, buying used Lego, I would not do at a place like that. Usually go to a used Lego shop, simply because we don't really need any, what do you call it? I don't remember the word you guys have now, but we brick Legos? Yeah. They don't bother sorting them. It's like, it's building blocks, whatever. Yeah, well, that's it. To get deals or dumping off junk. And I will admit, I'll do it with deals, quote unquote. But I'm not a, what do you call them? Garage sale type person, who goes and does their garage sale hunting on the weekends and stuff. I'm not that kind of person, and I'm not looking for a deal. I actually just find it... I'm not a people watcher kind of person, so what that means in the case of the charity shops thing is I look at it as kind of almost a study in being able to see what people are consuming, taking a look at our horrible consumerism that we have in the West. And I find that kind of an interesting microcosm when you take a look at what gets donated to charity shops. So yeah, if I happen to find a deal, great. If not, great. I mean, the other thing is, there's a lot of stuff that, if I find a deal, I will be more likely to buy something I probably don't need and can talk myself out of at a full price. But don't spend a ton of time there. Just once in a while, it's helpful. And I mean, Halloween costumes, of course. Everybody and their dog wants to go to places like that because it's things that you can repurpose, but you wouldn't normally buy whatever it is, especially if you're doing outfits. So like when we did for my daughter a few years ago, we found most of the right pieces for her to do a Harry Potter themed Luna Lovegood costume at a charity shop, because she just needed a little jacket, stuff like that. Which was far less expensive to put it together ourselves than it was to pay full price for a pre-made commercial costume. And it had a bit more of a touch of realism isn't the word. I don't know. Sometimes the DIY element makes it a little bit more appealing to some people. So, sort of you put in effort as opposed to commercially buying something. I commercially bought my costume this year, but it's one that I've been very, very picky about, and so hopefully it will arrive. I've not seen anything about processing yet, so yeah. We'll see. I'm always nervous ordering things from American companies when I'm in Canada, because they will often ship by UPS or whatever, that unfortunately a lot of their notices and stuff go straight to spam folders because they're very commonly spoofed companies. And so I may or may not have real ones, which is frustrating because I probably have customs duties to deal with. So, yeah. I left it be for the weekend, but I'll probably take a look this week to see if there's anything hiding in there that may or may not be real. And in those cases, I often look at it on my mobile devices because I don't mind wiping them and doing a full restore if I have to. Just because I opened an inappropriate piece of junk. Yeah. Okay, so this is our crow, it looks like. Needs a peek. Either crow or raven, I guess, maybe. Who just lives on the pumpkin patch thing. Ah! There I go again, pressing too hard. Alright, so we've got... That's our accessory to go with it. Extra bits. Okay, bag 2. Yes, I wouldn't buy Lego there, or anything that looks like Lego there. There's 9 chances out of 10 it's either not for real stuff, or it's mixed in, or sometimes it's been chewed up by a dog and they still try to sell it. Go figure. So, not always ideal. Not there. It's okay. Long strip. Big God. Weird piece. Okay. That one.
We got time, but no money.
Sometimes those things work well, sometimes not so much, to find things elsewhere. Yeah, that was one trick that I really liked about the Lego. We've never had to, because, as I said, we've got a room where the kids are allowed to spread it all over the place. But occasionally it does need to get cleaned up. And I know I'm going to be guilty of it again this year at Christmas, because of yet another Harry Potter Advent Calendar, and I always like them even when I get stuff that's kind of a repeat. Because one of the nice parts about it is, with so many dioramas, you get some of the characters, but you don't get all of the characters that could possibly be in the scene. So when I get stuff from the Advent calendars, I can either use it to decorate further for the models, or I can use it to populate further with minifigures. Out here. I think we covered the characters that can manipulate their size. The other things I find funny about Lego, especially in aggregate, is when you are building a piece or building something from a large collection of Lego. So if someone hasn't sorted it into the separate bags yet, or it's not a new set, then you will often find situations where your brain's going, I'm pretty sure I saw that piece. I know it's over here. It's got to be. And you spend like 20 minutes looking for something. Either you were looking for it as the wrong piece, or you'll find later on that it's just that one you really don't have, and it's actually fully missing. And that's a bit of a fair moment, because you're on a roll, and suddenly you have to stop because you don't have that piece. I really should sort my Lego. Normally I don't have a whole ton. Usually it's all just the little spare parts they send in these kits, and I didn't have my own access for quite some time, but of course now that I've got a couple of kits that I started building piece by getting the parts at the used shop, and then now that I've got ones where I found thing assembled, done, for inexpensive, then I probably have far too much left over now, because I've got all the parts for the Gringotts, well, not all, a lot of the parts for the Gringotts Bank. So I've got a lot of white and black and white, and I've got a bunch of parts for a Quidditch set that I was working on, which of course we built a couple weeks ago from Box. I'm still debating whether or not I want the second one, but oops, wrong end. So it's down. So I've got finally my own collection, which means I actually have to figure out how to store this stuff. Because of course we now have parts that don't fit in one of those little floss cases. I have no idea what this song is. Weird. For the Fame by Apollo. Interesting. The bird is too cute. I know he's just watching us here. He doesn't have a name. I think maybe I'll call him Nevermore. Nice little Poe reference there. It's the season where I usually get somewhat nostalgic for a old Magic special that had William Shatner reading, what's the word? Not narrating. Reciting, that's the word. See, there is a word for it. Reciting The Raven by Poe. It's actually kind of neat to hear something where Shatner's voice in his sort of starting, stopping, semi-halting type speech really does work. I don't think I'm quite yet into the mood for a rereading of Tech War, or the Tech series. Okay. It's a sci-fi book written by Shatner. What was the connection there? Brick. Let's do it the right way. Brick. A thing with holes. No, I'm not going to make a thing with holes quote for the day. We should do that though. So it's another one of those, I need to make a note in my Discord channel at some point, my list of things to do. Add that to the potential clips category. Need to lend usable buttons more accurately. This looks to be a bit like a whale. You think of like a Luca maybe? Quiet tunes. Very quiet me, as unusual, on Lego. Where? Where? I don't recall the name, so I don't think I've ever read that one. Be curious though. Can you tell me a little more about it? I know Osmond seems utterly curious, but I am too. I will admit, I'm a chicken. We've talked about this a million times, but I'm a chicken in a lot of ways, not just Minecraft. So I am one of those kids that never grew up in terms of sensitivities to things that should not unsettle most people, but you know, are meant to be a little bit spooky. And so a few weeks ago at camp, I scared myself. As dumb as that is, I think we did talk about it on stream a little bit, but I'd had a conversation with one of our other youth who was into reading classics, and I like classic books, and then they're into reading some of the same stuff I was reading and so forth. And looking for this one, but like the smaller, more square version. So, there we go. And so they were reading some of the same ones I was, and part of it was we got into a Poe conversation, and then there was some other stuff. But it was just one of those ones where it was like after dark at camp, and the moon kept getting covered by some passing wispy clouds repeatedly. And so I managed to give myself the heebie-jeebies a little bit in terms of just that sort of, I don't know, the little like hairs on the back of your neck standing up like you're kind of being watched sort of feeling when there was absolutely zero reason for it. So, yeah, I'm a chicken. It happens. But it was kind of funny because we had some sort of odd conversation about that this weekend. Not same person, just like different stuff. But the scouter who decided to stay up with me that weekend until I didn't feel so weirded out. Started this conversation, I'm like, hee, and guess what? I'm not scared. She just thought it was funny. Like, well, yeah, I know. Neil Gaiman. Fox might have. Adventure Quest thing. Characters are really good. I do like Gaiman's work. I haven't read a whole lot of it, but what I have read, I do quite like. Actually, which reminds me, at some point, I should put on I have a list, slowly, of things that I'm hunting for in our used bookshops up here, just because they don't seem to have it in regular shops much anymore. I'm looking for a copy of Michael Crichton's book. Now, you may think it odd, but he did a book called The Great Train Robbery, and it was made into a movie stuff, but I would like a copy of that. I've read it about 3 times, still enjoy it. I like it from the Victorian sort of twist. Gaiman is really neat to listen to as well. So if you ever get the chance to hear or see him talking about various things on YouTube, like he was doing some stuff for Wired for a while on their YouTube videos. But he's really quite knowledgeable when it comes to fantasy as well. Not necessarily a Tolkien expert, but a deeper fantasy expert. I thought that was kind of neat because so little of it shows up in some of his books, and yet he really knows his stuff. I should sit down and read more. I just don't give myself enough time to do so. There's just never enough hours in the day to do everything you want to do. Diamond is an amazing author. He's also a pen fanatic, from what I understand. Where's the... right under my nose. There it is. He's very, very specific. And at one point we were watching a video where he was telling a story about being kind of annoyed when one of his children got hold of one of his favorite, more expensive plastic pens. And I don't know what they'd done with it exactly, but it sounded like it was along the lines of the kids who put the cheese sandwich inside the VCR. So, yeah, he was not impressed. Fox is a bit of a pen fan, but most of the really nice pens are crazy expensive, so we've got him a couple of good ones, but not as many as he probably would like. I find it interesting, though, fad-wise, how sometimes it's popular to have a very thick-barreled pen or pencil, and other times it's not. It's more popular to have a very thin one, and that doesn't seem to be consistent for very long. It seems to be like writing instrument fashion. I did laugh, though. Was it in Dadcraft's Discord? I think there was a commentary not that long ago about someone whose youth had to come up with a signature, and they said, "Can I just print my name?" Like, no, you printed on the next line. That's where you write or print your name, and here you sign. They're like, well, I don't have a signature, and that's actually a reality that a lot of the world is not sort of taking into account, is more schools do not have cursive writing on their curriculum anymore. So if you want a signature, it is the writing format that you taught your kids before, or that schools have taught the kids before they got to the age of being able to use the computer and do writing assignments. More and more of the writing type assignments are being typed on computers or tablets or whatever. So kids don't learn how to write, and they don't have a signature as such. So I'm kind of wondering what the world's going to do when that realization hits. There's a lot more coming in terms of digital signatures, whether it be, put your fingerprint here, or whether it be just vouching that whatever horrible scribble you got with your finger pretending to be a mouse seems to work. That's great, but it's a situation that I don't think much of the world ever factored in. People are complaining that people's writing is getting worse. Well, yeah, that kind of follows. If you don't teach them how to write, they're not going to have good penmanship. It's sort of a given. And I would assume the extension of that being long-term, that the jokes about pharmacists being able to understand doctor script will probably slowly fade away as that situation becomes just being able to understand anybody's writing. This one. Oh, skipped part of the step. That explains a lot. Glenn, pay attention. This one. Blue section in here. That's fair. Do this properly. Here I go, once again, just talking to you guys and not paying a whole lot of attention to the actual instructions. What did we say earlier? Bye! in here. This one on the end. Great, that section's done. Front, down the front of Bucky. Bring it over this way. See you again soon, Mama Bear. Thank you very much for the time you were able to spend today. I really appreciate that you took the time to drop by. Life comes first. Life outside of Lego, outside of streaming comes first. But yeah, Mondays will be 3 hours because I used to do 3 hours for Lego on Fridays. And then I've just swapped it in with Fridays is now a 2-hour Minecraft stream, partly because it's hit and miss with the scout meetings and scout camps. So sometimes I may have to cancel just because I've got too much prep to do. Like last week, I think I canceled? I can't remember at the moment. Probably. This one, 2, 4. Looks kind of similar. The resulting effect, of course, is that we only miss a Minecraft stream, which isn't a big deal if I've been doing 3 more other days. And Thursdays will still be 3 hours because that allows me to very smoothly transition into our fine friend Poodle. Now a sec here. Just did beg something. Come on. Did I roll backwards? So. Part. Bag 3. I just did bag 3. Let's try that again. Assuming it's bag 4, we'll just go with that. Parts that we want are in bag 4. I think the same error. This bag 3. It does say bag 3. That's interesting. How did that happen? I'm not seeing the right parts in bag 4. Oh, I see where I got confused. Okay, I opened the wrong bag. Give me a sec. I looked down and I saw the bag 3 from the last build. So I'm just going to grab a tray. Bag 4. Okay, bag 3. Happens when I don't put away all the trash in between builds. Okay. I swear, these geek out questions, part of the reason we get so many Disney ones is because the ones that aren't Disney are terrible. Okay. This one. Or it's a dark one. Light. Have to be that color. Light square, square. The music stopped. Oh, no, didn't stop. It's just quiet. Better. I can actually do this correctly. First time. Pop Culture Party. Two songs by Tupac Shakur. Nobody listens to Tupac, then we'll roll it, because that's kind of a silly question. Excuse me. It's little pieces. I wonder if these border circles are like the new dots. The joke, orange is the new black, but we've got border circles being the new dots. There we go. Now that section. This way. Well, now I can see where it fits. Sort of. Alright. Whoa. Forward, right? Great.
Just to get you back again. I would do anything at all.
And
I know I'm not innocent. You deserve a better man. Let me just hold your hand once more.
I don't think I have a record for the number of boo-boos I've made this time, but we're getting pretty high. Weird. I need to grab some coffee just because I'm obviously not seeing things. I think it's just a matter of cleaning the glasses. Okay. One. We have. This one's got two different sets. Okay. Go.
There's a new part of me, a part I want you to see. You haven't seen the best of me, I know. You can try to fool yourself, like you love somebody else, but you and him will never feel the way we do.
I think that's what that is.
I wanna take you out, show you what I'm all about.
How do you feel now? Yay! 25 minutes for those counting. Be quiet. I was quite surprised on the way back from camp. Quite often, when we listen to music in the vehicle, and a stick Dropbox just select something, when our kids get to pick, then I don't usually like their music. But on the way back, I said I wanted music while I drove back because we had about an hour, and they didn't know what they wanted. So I said, okay, well, I will start with with sort of my quote-unquote my music, so like this Spotify DJ feature. And we'll just play whatever that is until they decided what music they wanted. And of late, it's been definitely, the Spotify DJ has definitely been hitting the kind of music I wanted to hear, but it was far more like 60s kind of rock music and oldies, not oldies, we'll get like Beatles and such. But then it was also a lot of musicals. Just that's what I've been into. So I've been playing an awful lot of that. So that's, of course, what it would pick. And it took me about 3 or 4 songs before I realized my kids were actually singing along in the back seat. So we listened to quite a lot of it for a while, and then they said, can I put on, I think it was Mr. Blue Sky, which we didn't listen to a lot. It's Electric Light Orchestra. That's their favorite version. I mean, I know others have done covers of it, like Weezer and stuff, but that's the one they wanted, was Electric Light Orchestra, so we listened to that. And then there was some other thing. I think there was one from Anime thing, and I don't remember what the very last piece was as we went into the house. But it was kind of neat to notice that they were putting up with my own music and singing along. It's cool. Because of all the people in the family, they don't usually like my stuff. Fantastic Shark Fox will occasionally put on a playlist he thinks I like for dinner, and he's usually right. But sometimes I itch to, come along or sing along or whatever, and it doesn't work at dinner. We don't sing at the table. Your exception being like a happy birthday song or something. But that's about it for the most part. Occasionally really late at the end of dinner when basically you're waiting for the last person to be finished. But for the most part, we don't do that, so it was not a thing. What am I looking for? Big arch pieces again. So yeah, it was kind of fun. I'm trying to remember what it was we played. It was a bit of like mix of various different things, and I know it's been playing a lot of musicals that even I don't listen to all that often. We had a piece from Gypsy, I think it was, and we had some classic Streisand kind of stuff, which I discovered recently. I didn't know, but Imelda Staunton, who most people wouldn't recognize as a name, she came from the musical theater side, and film-wise, people would recognize her a little bit as the face of Umbridge for Harry Potter. So our absolute pink-loving, rather annoying and sometimes evil professor, who's really just in it. She doesn't necessarily prefer one side over the other. She just wants her own, power, really. She's a power monster. And has bought into the fallacy of wizards being better. But anyway, so this actress, I did not realize had been musical theater first, and so I was quite surprised to hear she'd done some of these other more famous ones that Streisand had done, like Gypsy and stuff like that. And she'd also done a version of Sweeney Todd, which is the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Movie version had Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter in it. And that was definitely an interesting twist when I was listening to Imelda Staunton's version. Just visualizing the characters. I know Angela Lansbury had done some of that as well, and I was very familiar with her version. But to hear Imelda Staunton's was kind of nice. So, yeah, creepy, but nice. It's a very creepy musical theme. So, yeah. And I would probably someday like to see the movie version with Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp, because I think they would both do a good job, because they both do well with creepy characters, but not necessarily anytime soon, just because there's other things to do and other things to see that don't have to be creepy. just goes into that chicken category. No, I don't think it'll be scary in any way, shape, or form. I just don't necessarily need to watch a show full of murder at the moment. Yeah, because I've got a lot of other stuff too. I mean, plenty of catching up to do on mysteries that do involve that. And lots of older sci-fi that I would like to rewatch. Such as... Why is that? Huh. Probably because I put it on backwards. That would explain a lot. Right piece, wrong side. How do I get myself turned around? Okay. It's kind of neat to think like there's a bunch of people that are actors and actresses that are what I think what the industry might call a triple threat. Because they can act, they can sing, they can dance, they can whatever. And I don't always realize that some of them have come from other sort of stage type backgrounds before they got to screen. I mean, for example, there's even been material with Maggie Smith singing, which is one of those things that you would just not necessarily picture if you're only familiar with Downton Abbey and Harry Potter and some of Maggie Smith's other acting roles, such as Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile and so on and so forth, the Agatha Christie pieces. Yeah, so hearing Maggie Smith sing was a bit of an eye-opener as well. Button. Aha. So we've got Geek Out has switched to be naming two types of fairy races. Different. And the question of the day was, if name tagging in Minecraft Mob with your name did something special, then what would you like it to do? And what would your word be? So, I like that notion of if it did something special. The thing I would like about that whole name tag nagging with something to make it do whatever, I actually kind of wish we could double name tag things. So like, as in one would be the layer that makes it do something special, and one would actually be a name. Cute. I like that. So what sort of mobs would you have doing your Vogue pose? I'm assuming that they would have to have enough joints to be able to do so. Pose would be kind of fun. I'm trying to pick another one. I think it'd be fun if we could get villagers to do something, maybe name them like Thinker or something. I could be able to get sort of famous statue poses by naming them after that famous statue. So for example, you could get yourself sort of a fully clothed version of David if you just named your villager David. Although there's not much to that though, because the you just sort of stood there and villagers are kind of trapped. But it'd be kind of fun if you could get them to do, say, the thinker. That would be a fun one. A cow doing Vogue. That'd be kind of fun. Nymphs and Dryads. There you go. That's a good one. That brings back Anne of Green Gables memories for me. Then you've also got like pixies and well, one could argue the brownies, but they're kind of related to the leprechauns more. Kind of cool if you could pose any animal in the like armor stand concept. Even if they only were able to rotate through poses they can automatically do, that'd be kind of neat. But I like Minx has a great idea with the getting to pose in this other things. Maybe not armor per se, but I think it would be. No, actually, maybe we could. It'd be kind of fun if you could get villagers to dress up like things, so that you could do something along the lines of like a waxwork museum. The problem with armor stands is that you can't put a head on it and a helmet, so maybe that would be my big change to Minecraft. Is like we would like to be able to do things like that, and we can't. So could you guys please allow us to put both on an armor stand, a head and a helmet? As it is right now, if you want that sort of effect, then you need to be able to tweak it, I guess, in such a way that you've got a skin that's got a helmet of sorts designed right onto the armor stand. Not armor stand, sorry, right onto the head. And then, of course, get that head dropped. Big Tag and Enderman. You know, sometimes they do remind me a little bit of walking armor stands in a way. I understand that's not the intent, but the Brief Shaper building reminds me a little bit of the top or hump section as being somewhat similar to Star Wars AT-AT or AT-AT or however you want to say it. Walkers, giant walkers. Those of you that have heard about it and been somewhat curious, which I suspect are not many, if you do get the chance to see on Netflix the it's a Lego Star Wars series they've put out, where the universe being Lego, or sorry, the galaxy being Lego, gets all shuffled up, and most of the characters are not what you would expect. I mean, there's a few that are sort of predictable, as in light side versus dark side. They stay on the side you would generally have them on. But there's a few topsy-turvy elements that I thought were kind of fun, and I watched the series with the kids. Really enjoyed it. It was silly, but I enjoyed it. And that's where on the internet a lot of the buzz has been coming from when people are talking about Darth Jar Jar. It was terrible, but you know, that's the way it's supposed to be. It's just definitely a good bit of fun and worth checking out for kicks. White Vader, Darth Jar Jar. Yeah. White Vader who got along with Luke Skywalker. But spoiler alert. The basic premise in the whole moral of the story concept is that once things are changed, you can never quite put them back the way they used to be. But it was kind of fun to see some of the characters being on the side. And if there's certain ones in the original Star Wars canon that you find just generically annoying, they're there in lots of them. But there's something they're still the same. You know, stormtroopers can't hit the broadside of a barn and that sort of stuff. It just stays the same. It was fun. It was silly and fun. I wish I could remember the name of it, and unfortunately that's not my today, because apparently I'm too busy making mistakes on the Lego. Less than 10 minutes. Woohoo! But actually, I'm enjoying this. I honestly would keep going, but I will probably sort those other bricks from bag 4 so that they're a little easier to deal with when we do get there, and put them back and see what we can do about some overhauls, because obviously we've got sound issues. So we need to sort that between now and ASAP. And upside down. Oh, okay. We need to sort those, but generally we can leave a lot of this till next week. I think with having 7 bags, we're only finishing bag 3 or partway through bag 3, that we will have extras for next week. Which is good, because I wouldn't know what to do beyond that. This goes that. Devastator, yes. Darth Devastator was pretty cheesy. Fun, but cheesy. Basically, rather than Luke being the son of our sort of major villain, of course, Vader is good, and they didn't really have a match off the Rebel side to throw at the dark side, so they've invented new characters for that. That's, you know, it was necessary. And it also kind of goes, you only have one story. Everybody only wants to hear it once, but if you give it about 30 times, nobody cares. They don't want to hear it. They're done. Yeah. Guess that's probably. Oh. What do you think today? That's alright. I would blame camp, but that's not possible because I overslept when I got back. It's one of those ones that when I don't get warm the night before, then second night or third night, whenever I get home, I suddenly am uber tired and sleep tons, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Took a lot of time to think though for wide awake in the middle of the night. Eyes are a little bit googly on this one. This. I'm just gonna finish up this part of the bag, and that'll probably take us to the top of the hour. Oops. And if it does not, then we'll just color anyways, or try to. I will give this one thumbs up for complexity. And not a whole lot of super custom molded parts, which I sort of like as well. So tomorrow's plan, Minecraft is back into the mine shaft that we had, but we should have just normal mobs to deal with, regular spawnables, which means creepers and the like. I mean, nobody likes creepers, but at least creepers we can manage. And, sweep the leg and set it on fire and all that jazz. No spooters. No, spooter spawners, at least, no spiders. And you guys are well aware that's not my favorite. This one. This one. Use your brain. So used to these split pieces being used in such a way that they come down to a point rather than the opposite way where they're splitting the feather. So I'm wanting to default to that. It's all wrong. And on the other side. Forward to seeing what the rest of the community is up to this week. I haven't been paying a whole heap of attention. I had a last couple weeks just a bit of a very spacey head kind of week. So I'm looking forward to getting back into the groove and getting used to working with other people, or watching other people, enjoying their content. So hopefully that will happen. Definitely need great background noise when I'm attempting to roll out Fido and stuff later this week. Cut apples. See how that goes. Assuming it's his head? Yes. So Buckbeak has a bit of a head. There we go. Hey, so we've got shape. We've got his tail goes down. We've got shape to Buckbeak. And that's where I believe we probably leave it for today. Most likely. Yep. We're into bag 4. The evil bag that I dumped by mistake. It's not evil, but mistaken dump. And so we can start that next time. In the meantime, let's get ourselves someone to raid. Oops, let's see if we can get Bird in there. There we go. So today's projects, we'll just put them on the table. One there. And where's the other one? In the potions classroom here. That's what we've been up to today. Better or worse. So, readables include... Refresh that channel. Okay, it's not technically the top of the hour. We could probably drag our feet a couple minutes, but actually, you know what? We might head back. I don't see anyone currently doing Lego of people I usually follow, aside from local brickshop, which is not usually this particular community's favorite place to go. And he's been up for about 4.5 hours, so he might actually be staying. So if you're into multi-parking, I do recommend the local brickshop. That's all one word. His content right now claims marbles on stream, but he's also doing Lego news of the weekend recap and so forth. If you're going to follow the raid with us, we're going to hit up Maribel Jade. She's been up about an hour and a half, so could be a little short on her end as well, but she's on, says she's sick, no clue what is going on. Let's get creative on Truly Bedrock, I think. But she spelled it kind of funny, so maybe there's more to it than that. That's where we're going to head out. Please do give her our best. I want to say thank you to everybody that hung out so far, and thank you to everyone that might have been lurking. In the meantime, let's get this going. Button. There we go. Button. Who's got the button?
Mischief managed.
There we are. All right. So for those of you that like the emotes, there they are, floating all around. We've got the subscriber one on top and the everybody else down below. Thank you very much for hanging out. You're very welcome for the stream, Mike. I appreciate that you were here. Special thank you goes to Tom for the raid. Always appreciated. And our moderation team today included Fantastic Shockbox and Mama Bear. We had good conversation from Mike Burton, Yellow, ITT Tom, Jen, Wolfen, Thanks Nevada Les, and Groff to Maribel Jade. So, have yourselves a fantastic day. I shall see you at noon Eastern-ish tomorrow for Minecraft in a Mineshaft, and we shall see you then. Have a great day. Bye-bye for now.
Transfer complete.